Hey everybody, it's me, DeoGenZ, and Oichi is surprised. Why? My Reap is evolving! Booyakasha! Welcome to Pokemon+Nobunaga's Ambition. Our ambitions today is strictly discipline training. That's right. After taking on 2 nations successfully, I think we've got to power up before we hit up the Dark Nation. You know, just my past experience, trying to meld it into what I do here. I don't think it's really great for you to just rush out, sort of like I'm doing here. I mean, I will admit I am kind of leaving a lot of my team members behind in this, but I mentioned last episode that I feel this journey, even though it is the first part that you go on, the post-game is really where the game starts to pick up in difficulty, and I feel like this is just a way to get you acclimated to how it's played. So, you don't have a lot of nations trying to come over and take your territories that you've already stolen, so it doesn't really bother me, you know, but in all honesty, you really should go back and train some of the members that you left behind. Make sure they are admirable enough to defend your nations. I'm not certain how we get Kadabra to evolve. If anybody knows, please comment below. Because if you're a fan of the RPG series, you know that you have to trade Kadabra to get it to evolve. I was going to say to get it to involve, but it's already involved in every battle that we do with it. Question is, how do we get it involved in its own evolution? I don't know. Funny thing is, though, I remember back in Crystal, and this was really funny because 2 Pokemon that exclusively needed to be traded in order to get to their next evolution, I was training on my Crystal team. And I had a super strong Machoke in the level 70s. I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't evolve. I knew it was to come. I knew that eventually it would go into a Machamp. So I thought, wow, maybe Machamp is such a badass that it evolves at level 100. Well, I don't think I ever got to level 100 with that Machoke, and it ended up dying anyway because the internal battery ran dry. But I was doing the same thing with a Haunter because Gengar is one of my top 3 favorite Pokemon, the other 2 Deoxys and Typhlosion. And I really, really wanted it ever since I saw Morty use it against me. Little did I know, you have to do a little exchange. Yep, back in the Game Boy Color days, I didn't have anybody to trade with. And even thinking now, Game Boy Advance wasn't that much better either. By that time, I don't know, it just seemed as though Pokemon had kind of died in its main phenomenon craze, and everyone kind of jumped ship from it during the 3rd gen. So I still had nobody to trade with, but by that point I had my brother's Game Boy Advance, which he never played, and I had a link cable, so I could trade with myself. And that's what it took to complete my Pokédex. Although I don't think I ever completed it. Looking back, I really don't think I did, but I certainly got plenty of Gengars. Oh man, did I get plenty. I always thought the trading element was annoying, but it's not such a big deal anymore with GTS, Global Trading Station. Now all you have to do is go to a Wi-Fi cafe, put the Pokemon up you want to trade, and hope someone goes for it. Well, in the case of evolving your own Pokemon, it's probably better if you get that person's friend code, so they can assuredly transfer it back to you. There is an element slightly that you have to look out for, that some people may be devious. Some people may say, ooh, my chance to get a Gengar, I'm not giving this thing back, click, and they shut their game off with your Gengar. Oh, that would be frustrating. But that's the good thing. We have forums, we have YouTube channels like this, where serious Pokemaniacs can come together and understand one another, that we don't want to take each other's shit, but we do want to help each other out to become the best trainers that we can be. And that's a benefit. It's probably one of the, I don't want to use that move, whatever it is. It's probably the biggest thing I love about this YouTube channel, is I've collected a humongous amount of Pokemon people that I can relatively, for a good amount, trust. I don't really know all of you, but I know a good majority of you, and you're good people. And that's great. That is really awesome, and I think that's a Spark Attack. Has a nice wide range of attacking space. Oh, shiznit. Huh. Very interesting how this Crystal Mountain winds. I encourage you all to use the Y and directional pad changing so you could get different perspectives like this and see your opponents better, and also the terrain of the map. We haven't come across it in this Let's Play, but on my own playthrough on the Flying Nations map, I found it to be really annoying until I swapped around the perspective. There was a whole underneath canyon area that I wasn't seeing and didn't even know existed. And once I found that, I was able to integrate it into my strategy a lot better. But we can't go against the Flying Nation yet. They are fearsome foes. They have the ultimate control of the map because most, and I don't think all, usually there's one other type of Pokemon than that main nation's type, but you know, most of them can just fly wherever the fuck they want. And that's horrible, because you have to wait a certain amount of turn spaces for bridges to go, and well, you know, we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm just saying, you gotta train. You cannot neglect it. And this is where Rhyperior is starting to piss me off. Damn it, Rhyperior! You can't even jump over the opponent or anything. So now he's cornered. It's fucking great. If he was surrounded by two enemies, I would be even in a worse situation. They would have completely disabled Rhyperior. I mean, they kind of already did, but they're not attacking it. Only because I've got Pokemon to be a shield. But we might as well take the opportunity to get some presents. No, I didn't want to press X. Well, we can team up on Machop now. That Icy Wind is a little weak. I was just trying to see maybe if we could coax Machop to get out of there, then Rhyperior could attack. And yes, I think it's worth wasting Onyx's move for a present, of which I have no idea what we're collecting. I guess it's a little bit of ridiculous behavior here, me going after all these presents. I don't even know what they do. Oh, Tehwells. I'm not even sure how you check your inventory yet on the main map. Tis fine, tis fine. I think that I'm going to start probably, most likely in the month of May, upload multiple Nobunaga's Ambition videos a day, because we seriously need to get through this game before we have to play this game again in English. I know that sounds weird, but I have already started recording some of the post-adventures. I think I'm only going to do one of the other Busho Warriors stories, simply because if we go for them all, I highly doubt we're going to get this game done in the time that it takes to be imported. Which it's good, you know, it's fine. I'm really happy about that, but I just hope that I can maintain my enthusiasm for the game, really. You know, that's the one bad thing about LPing that nobody ever really thinks about. Oops. I really didn't mean that. But that's the one downfall of LPing, is that if you're playing a game over and over and over and over and over again, and you have to see it in post-production over and over and over again, because if you didn't know, this is captured in perfect quality with an emulator from a ROM I ripped from the cartridge, and it doesn't run at full speed. It records at 80, plays back at 100% speed, which is all I'm concerned about, the playback. But because of that, I have to play the game, then I have to go into my editor, and watch the game, and then talk about the game. And already the game is going to come back out in June in English. It's just a little ridiculous. Usually there's a year gap between Pokemon imports, but I'm really happy with it. You know, my lack of enthusiasm aside, which it's not happened yet, I still love this game, and I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot more when I can get into the story. But I think that this is a really excellent thing. I think this signifies that Nintendo is getting ready to jump full-on force with Pokemon being on 3DS. I forgot what the 2 new applications... Oh, no, I didn't. I remember. There's 2 new applications that were announced at Nintendo Direct, which is a Japanese conference that has been giving oodles and oodles of information. I've only seen the Pokemon bits of it because otherwise I want to be surprised at what is coming out. And I'm going to mainly watch E3 for that. So, I heard or saw on Cerebi, I don't want to make you think that I'm just hearing this out of nowhere because iHeards are some of the most useless testimonies, backed up by nothing. But on Cerebi, they showed a Pokédex enhanced application that has more than just the Unova Pokemon, and I think it has some alternate augmented reality abilities to it as well. And that was kind of very pointless. What is that? Okay, doesn't do anything to Onyx. Why not? But yeah, it's a enhanced Pokédex that has more than just Unova. I'm not sure if it's going to have all 600 plus Pokemon. I would assume it to be, since you have to actually pay for this application. And they're also having another application out that is specifically augmented reality based, in which you look around your world and you try to find Pokemon. And I think this is one of the best ideas. I've been talking about this for a while now, in the ways of holograms, talking about the Google Glass, which actually I'm not sure if I've mentioned it on these Let's Plays. I know I've been talking about it a lot, but Google Glass is augmented reality glasses that has no glass in front of your eyes, but has this projector thing that displays icons and images and other things right before your very face while you're walking around in your real world. That is absolutely perfect for what every Pokemaniac desires, for the series to be as real as possible. We're going to be able to go throughout our worlds and literally find Pokemon in the wild grasses. That's phenomenal! I love it! But before we even get to that level of programming, because Google Glass is still in beta mode, Nintendo is taking the initiative with its 3DS, and I think that's fantastic, because you've got the gyroscopes, you have 3D capabilities. The only thing that is going to suck with that application, and I can already foresee it just based on how these 3D screens work, is that if you want to go outside and actually find Pokemon, like, I don't know, a real Pokemon trainer would, you're gonna not really be able to see a damn thing. Unless you go out on a cloudy day, and then you're gonna have to risk getting your 3DS wet from rain. But anytime I take my 3DS outside, I can't see the 3D effect. The sun glare is too great, and it destroys it. So, you know, I really hope it's a good application. It's another paid-for application. It's not free. But it's something that I am anticipating. It's one of my highest ideas for what the franchise could do. But I think it's going to get a lot better. Oh, shiznit. I think it's going to get a lot better when it's seamless in something like the Google Glass. Because 3D Pokemon are cool. That's awesome. But you're still looking at them through a screen. And if you saw 2D or 3D looking sprites, they didn't have to be necessarily 3D in your world, but, you know, Google Glass would work so that as you're moving around, as you're moving your head position, the rendering of the Pokemon would move as to show you how it would be if you looked around your world at that creature. So I think something seamless like that will work out much better for our hopes and aspirations. But technology is making this come true. I don't know if anybody ever thought they would be involved in the wonderful world of Disney. And I guess that dream has come true for some people in the way of Disneyland. But being able to have your own adventures with your favorite characters being Pokemon if they are, that's an irreplaceable kind of goal. And it's fantastic. I remember back in the day when we used to read things. That's right, there was books with paper. It's kind of funny to say that, but we are quickly exiting the realm of paperback books and launching into the age of PDFs and Kindle books and things like that. But I had a Pokemon card collector's guide. I still have it. It is so worn and torn, I want to think about scanning it. This way I can preserve it in the digital realm. But all the time, I would go around with that book, and I lived on numerous farms in my life. So what I would do is I would pretend that was my Pokedex. And I would pretend that going through the grass, you know, I make the music noise as I walk, and I'm like, oh, a wild, and flip the book, Golbat, for example. And it would just be whatever card's on that page and I happen to point to. And, you know, I'd have lots of fun in Imagination Land. But I think it's a really cool initiative to see video games getting back out, getting more active. Not that video games ever were in the first place, you know, they kind of started out very much geek fanfare sort of deal, where you had to be almost half a programmer to know how to use them. But now games are evolving along with us, and really what I guess I'm trying to say is that it's better that we're going back outside. You know, that's one of the biggest problems I think our society faces today, is that you can't go anywhere. There is nowhere to fucking adventure. It sucks. I've lived in Jersey for over 10 years, and I've watched it quickly diminish in areas that are able to be explored. I remember that I would be able to go for hours in the forest, just finding new things, looking at cool trees and plants as I went along, trying to find animals, trying to find turtles, snakes, you know, kid stuff. But as I got older, the developments came in. The fields and forests that I had explored are dying. And, oh man, did I get really fucking pissed off. There's this place in Jersey called Route 9. It's essentially a gigantic strip mall where you have to drive your fucking car to get to the next building. But it's this giant strip mall, and on it they had a good set of trees behind a Wawa. They eradicated those, and now it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I don't know why the hell we are having developers make new buildings when there's so many abandoned buildings already. You need to have a business, then find one of these abandoned buildings and refurbish it. Don't cut down the entire forest so you could put your stupid shopping mall. I swear, I want to bomb these locations, but I don't, because I like living in this country as not a terrorist. Wow, we got freezing on one side of us and paralysis on the other. Oh, and poison. The Flying Nation was ill-prepared to deal with our secondary status effects. But that's the thing. It's really becoming hard to be a kid in this day and age and do fun things that I got to do when I was young, living in Pennsylvania, which was a beautiful place if you wanted to explore. Not excellent class of people. Not insulting you if you are in Pennsylvania, but let's just say there was... Oh, wait, that's my Anorith? Oh, I'm a dumbass. But let's just say that I found a lot of ding-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding-dings. And, you know, people who partake in incest. And, you know, they're not bad people, but they have very limited viewpoints, and they think that their doctrine is the way to go. And anybody who's not willing to discuss something or actually think through it and have a legitimate, logical, philosophical conversation, I'm not interested in talking to them ever again. So it was good in the respect that there was a lot of wilderness. It was bad in the respect that if you went too far, you risked getting hit in the face with a shotgun because you stepped on someone's property. And it's really hard because the property lines there are very blurred. But that's the thing. Everybody's trying to take a piece of land and say, you know, this is my land, get the fuck off it. Ah, well, this is going to do damage to Kadabra, but oh well. And there's no public spaces. There's very little public spaces left to go and be a kid. And if there are spaces like that, you usually have to drive to them. They're not outside your door. They're not in an area that you could just walk to or bike to. It's fucking bullshit. And people wonder why we're having so much depression and ADHD and ADD children coming about. Listen, I was classified as an ADD child. My mother decided not to put me on Ritalin because here's why I was suggested for the drug. My teacher said that I asked too many questions. Can you fucking believe that? Because I was curious, because I wanted to know some more things about the world around me, and I looked up to the adults who were standing before me as perhaps role models, information keepers that could answer these questions. They wanted to put me on a drug that would zonk me out and make me not question a damn thing anymore. That's the wrong kind of attitude. You want people who can question. You want people who can think on their feet. If you just instantly try and medicate your children and say, okay, Tommy, stay inside your room, here's a new video game, then when that kid gets older, they're not going to know how to handle life. They're not going to know how to deal with people because they've been inside all the time, and the only interactions they've gotten are on places like YouTube and Call of Duty, where they're just yelling out obscenities to each other, not even thinking about the consequences of if they do that in real life. And we are running short on time, but I have a fun story to tell you how that kind of mentality really can go wrong. I've witnessed firsthand somebody who has lived their whole life mainly indoors and mainly on video games, and how they react in reality. It's scary, and it's just like, well, what are you gonna do? You know, you can't force people to send their kids outside, and even if you do, there's creepers out there now, people who want to touch them. And even if you do get them out there and you get them past the creepers, then where do they go? In the street? There's no more parks. You cut down all the fucking trees for suburbs. I don't know. It's my rage, and it's why I love Pokemon, because it brought back some of that imaginative creativity that I can take outside and just go on my own and enjoy. And wow, Oichi, 2 evolutions in 1 episode. Brilliant! Now we have an Ampharos. But that's why I love Pokemon and appreciate it so much. I mean, Satoshi Tajiri said himself, he based this whole series off of his childhood of going outside and collecting insects. He was Dr. Bug, you know? And he trying to bring that to this generation of digital kids, it works only halfway effectively. The other half that will make this a super effective combo is integrating games with outdoor time. And we are moving quickly towards that realm. I'm DeoGenZ. I'll see you next time. I got a funny story about angry Asians. See you then.